Every story begins with a spark. A single page, a single voice, a single chapter. Welcome to Chapter 1, where our authors take you on the journey in their own words. Settle in, listen closely. This is where the adventure begins.
Hi, this is KN Fitzwater. I'm joined here by Blondie, and I'm going to read the first chapter of the Doppelgänger Queen, written by me, first in the Silver Fox series. You could get this book through Four Horsemen Publications at any bookstore closest to you, or you could check it out through your local library. Chapter 1, Quaylock. East of the wind-whipped dunes of the Ionese Desert, lost in the jungles of Angloria, far in the ruinous depths of Quaylock, under suffocating silt and haunted halls, a light, quivering, timid, clinging to life against the oppressive dark, illuminating four grim faces stealing to meet their fate. Call it, Ruth. Aramis, the one holding the light, whispered. His silver eyes burned fiercely in the flickering shadows. The tome is the key, whispered their company leader, gilded in split mail, her tongue thick with a northern accent. It is the source of Telazar's power. If we can get it out of his hands, we can defeat him. And you expect me to do a wee bit of lightning? The third, Jewel, furrowed his brows, distorting the swirling wold on his face. No, we need your wind. We'll distract the villain while Aramis will go up top for the grab. Once we have it in our sights, we give the signal. Hail the dawn? Queried the last, Rayla, priestess of the morning lord and sister to all friendly folk, her curls contained in a golden shawl. Ruth nodded. When you hear that, Aramis, you jump. Jewel, you catch him and fly him at the necromancer. Telazar won't know what hit him. Once the tome is plucked, we make your escape. The silence was as stifling as the hall they were in. You sure you don't want me to do an itty bit of lightning? Asked Jewel. Not with these bombs you don't, Aramis said, the handmade cigarette dangling from his lip. Gingerly, he touched the flame to the paper as he spoke. Rudder bangers are for underwater. Once out of the water, any spark can set them off. Ah, Rayla can put you back together, right? The sister hardly stirred, save to give Aramis a look. Her brows pinched together. Aramis sighed, smoke hissing from his lips. I'll be fine. This isn't my first. Which one? Jewel jested. Aramis rubbed his neck as he turned his gaze to the arched ceiling above, the ancient fresco still as stunning as the day it was made. 17 for the bombs, 3 for the jump. 3! Ruth hissed them all to be silent, as she put her hand on Glenwood's scabbard. It was a side hall, after all. There were no doors to run to, no alcoves or pillars to hide them. Jewel had first wondered if this was the makings of the ancients, humans who had once dominated the entire globe, due to its arched precision. But Aramis, ever the historian, explained it was once called the Hall of Peace. Elves and dwarves signed the treaty to inherit the earth as one, which still stood to that very day. Thus they commemorated the event with this hall. The ancients would have used a different material, such as metal or cinder blocks, and had gravitated to rigid rectangles. The natural stone ceiling was curved, so the fresco encompassed all who passed through as equals. If only they could see it in better times. All clear, Rayla said after a few heartbeats. They could always depend on her elven heritage. Right. No fire. No sparks. Hail the dawn. Jump. Catch. Ruth pointed at Rayla, Aramis, and Jewel respectfully. Grab the tome or die trying. All nodded, save for one. The smoldering end of the cigarette blazed up to Aramis's lips before he spat out the words, Fuck that. Aramis! Rayla scolded. I didn't free myself from Baziport so I could die in this hellhole. He flicked the spent roll. There's an old chute the builders used during the building's construction. Once I get it open, tome or not, we get out of here. But the ghouls! Hell, Aramis! He could raise this entire city! Joel jetted his palms out, barely keeping his voice down. The world would be doomed if we left it in Telesar's hands. Aramis covered the flame so it wouldn't go out. We have the Centaurs. Ruth, I know it's not the Genasi, but they can help fight this. Ruth cupped her chin and bowed her head in thought. Aramis held his breath. He knew the rebel fighters were spread thin throughout the entire Ionese desert, fighting to end the tyranny of their overlords. Surely they could convince their colonel, Corza, to lend some of the troops to them. If not, then the treasure should persuade him. My sisters and mothers will. Rilla put her fist out in the middle. For Bagheera. Aye, for Tamara and a pint back home. Joel slapped his hand on top of hers. Aramis's grizzled expression softened into a smile for the first time since they had started this venture. His gloved hand covered the two. For Maverill and the free people. For the good of the realm, Ruth grasped with both hands. Come what may, we will end him. They made their pact. They snuffed the flame, but not the fire within. The Grand Hall, a humble title for what it contained. 15,000 feet of gigantic statues lined abreast. Their regal heads soared to the vaulted stone ceiling as they stood at attention in the all-consuming darkness, a testament to the engineering prowess of the elves. Lo, high above on one such head, a light. Dangling upside down from a slender cord, Aramis inched down like a silkworm from the vaulted ceiling. No guide wires, no safety nets. Bare rope and bare skin was all he needed. A feat that would be too intimidating to most humans or elves. But Aramis was no human. Though he might look like it, he was a Jossin. A being constructed by the Genasi lords by magic and sin, as the saying goes. Dexterous and durable, they can withstand immense punishment and still perform incredible feats of acrobatics. All for the Genasi lords' sickening nighttime pleasures. To add to this pleasure, every Jossin lights up in the dark, he included. Though his is of an older making, only his eyes light up in a silver pall. Aramis allowed his illuminating eyes to guide him to a safe purchase. He slipped on his special mask, concealing the silver light his eyes bore while allowing him the vision to see. There he waited among the monarchs, enveloped in the vast veil of slumber known as oblivion. Whatever foul terrors lurking in the shadows witnessing him, Aramis secured all the rudder-bangers in the air shafts enclosed above. He strung their fuses together into a singular cord. One strike, and all would come crashing down. What a shame, Aramis thought, as he peered into the velvet dark. His inner historian would be amiss to have this place buried again, never to be discovered until the next unfortunate soul stumbled by. Before him, across the void, was a carved statue of an elven face. Through all of his memories of precious vellums, he never knew who was staring back at him there in queenly judgment. Majestic lips closed with elven secrets, keeper of history, never born to the light of day. Would he have such a face when the time comes? A silent mask lost in the shifting sands of time? Or would he disappear as the ancients did 3,000 years ago, their skyward towers of glass fallen by avarice and vice? If these were to be his last words to a slumbering god, then it should be with illumination. He produced the flickering flame with a matchstick and cupped it close to him. His breath shuddered as the flame danced. As he bent down for his silent prayer, Aramis froze. From the corner of his eye, the light caught a shape on the wall. It took his entire will to push the scream back down his throat. It was a ghoul, a creature of the dead, awakened by Telazard's cruel magic. Like the rest of the mindless hordes known as Immortai, but with an insatiable hunger that drives them into reckless abandon. Clinging to the bare stone like a cicada ready to molt its flesh, the ghoul's head craned backward in an inhumane manner. And it was not alone. Aramis dared to raise the tiny flame closer and found the entire wall lined with millions of the dreadful creatures. All of them were crouching in wait with their eye upon him, rasping in anticipation. Had he ever drawn near the wall earlier, he would have lost his courage. A cry pierced the wall surrounding him. In a flash, he enveloped the matchstick in his gloved hand. Rayla? Then he heard a dark cackle emit from far below. Telazard. His assumption was confirmed as the hoarse voice mocked. It seems that your morning lord is not as strong as your faith, priestess. Perhaps there is another worthy of your devotion. There's no light greater than the morning lord, Rayla cried out. Aramis rated himself by the fuse. This was all part of their plan, after all. Have themselves captured by these goons. Keep the necromancer gloating once the tome was in sight. Not even your silver fox? Telazard posed the question. The silver fox, a moniker the free people had given to Aramis long ago when he was the shepherd of the desert, a hero worthy of their praise. It wasn't the question itself that gave him pause, though. It was her silence. How can he, a delinquent through and through, be brighter than their god? Why can't she answer the question? As if she heard his thought, Rayla's voice cracked. He's dead. You killed him. Aramis grimaced. Even he could tell the deception fell flat before Telazard's cackle echoed to the ceiling. No, you elven mutt. But soon, the fox will be. It was decided in his mind, single or no, it ends here. Aramis' fingers fumbled on the rough-hewn leather and found only one matchstick left. Crouching at the fuse line, he sparked the match. The flame lit the frayed end, struggling to catch from the suffocating throne room. Then he sucked in his breath as he looked up before him. Pair of eyes hovered before him, dull, clouded, dead. trailing his hand movement with hateful ticks. A foul voice disturbed the air, speaking in a tongue he can understand. As the flame dimmed, the evil eyes grew brighter and closer. Aramis reached for his trimmed blades, but it was too late. The ghoul slammed into his chest, knocking Aramis flat on his back. Spittle flew from its inhumane maw as it raked his black linen shirt with its bony claws. Grabbing the ghoul's throat, Aramis gave himself enough distance to reach for his dagger. With a flick of his wrist, he slid it into its armpit. A death sentence for any living man, yet that was not his aim, for this was no living being. With a twist of his knife, he popped the arm out of the joint. Then he locked the leg, grabbed the arm, and rolled the ghoul to his right in one fluid motion. Now vertical, Aramis stabbed his dagger into the base of the skull, wiggling the knife until those dingy eyes stopped twitching. Its face melted back to its original death mask, a frozen scream of terror. A shudder rolled over his spine, easing himself from the still corpse. He glanced at the fuse line, still there, though the blackened ends were free of any flame. A clatter of steel rang out below as Rayla's song, Hail the Dawn, echoed down the hall. Aramis crawled on his hands and knees to the frayed line. He banged the two great pads together. With every spark, his heart leaped. Sweat trickled down his brows before the cloth wiggled away. Bones popped from the wall as the ghouls shuddered from their stasis. They, too, hail. "Light! Damn you, light!" he said through gritted teeth. At last, the tender flame licked the end, then sped off toward the dark void above. A smile and a half-hearted laugh were all the celebration Aramis could give. Springing to his feet, he dashed to the edge and freed his sweaty brow of the mask. A globe of silver light enveloped his head and shoulders as if to stream from his eyes. "It's lit!" came Jules' voice. Then Aramis saw it. One by one, balls of flame appeared, encircling his compatriot, as well as the pack of ghouls. They broke off and circled around as hyenas would with a lone lion. Gleamwood, Ruth's trusted sword, met them in the flash. To and fro she moved as if dancing, pairing, and ending their vicious hunger. Jewel, in the meantime, crouched low to the ground, whirling his arms in circular motions. A violet arc of lightning streamed from the right. Aramis could see the foul necromancer's contorted face in that chilling moment. Fortunately, the lightning crashed and showered over an invisible shield. Set fast at the break was Rayla, the song still on her lips. Then came a warble of a different sort, hissing, snarling, groaning, rising from below like a snake. In Aramis's silver pall, the abomination slunk down from the wall. Ridges of their scapulas rose and fell with each step as they stalked towards the floor. He couldn't afford to wait for Jules' good time. With that thought, Aramis squeezed his eyes shut and launched himself, flipping backward into a somersault before twisting himself into a spear. He clasped his palms tightly below his head, piercing the self-made wind rushing over his form. It took everything he had to not lose himself to fear as he braced for the worst. "By Loon's pointy tits, I lost him!" cried Jewel. "Aramis! Open your eyes, Aramis!" cried out Rayla, the last word a shriek of desperation. At last his eyes flew open, straining against the stinging wind, a silver meteor falling to earth. Only the ghouls were able to keep flight. One decided to leap off of their fellow toward Aramis. Thankfully he squeezed himself into a ball, and the ghouls grazed past him. Then he felt an incredible pull toward the earth below. At first, Aramis thought he would splatter on the time-worn floor, but then he heard Jules' voice. His incantation whispered in the very wind that caressed and carried Aramis into the magical vortex. Everything sped past Aramis as he flew over their heads. Lady Ruth's hair looked like a flame on a thatch. Glints of light from her armor shone like stars. Rilla's saffron hijab whipped off her head, sailing with Aramis until it hit Jules' tattooed head. In a blink, Telazard was in his sights. His leprotic maw gaped as Aramis zoomed toward him. Aramis moved to bring his daggers to bear, but the wind carried him too quickly. His shoulder slammed into the necromancer's chest. Try as he may, Aramis couldn't stab the slippery devil as they rolled on the floor. They came apart, and Aramis rolled down the throne hall, carrying with him the prized possession, Telazard's tome. He had separated the flesh-bound book from its master. Aramis! Rilla came over, tugging on his arm to help him stand. Hurry, before they swarm! A deafening boom shook them to their bones, forcing them to cling together as chunks of limestone fell from above. The bombs were meant for the vents, not the structural frame of this impressive room. That shouldn't be happening. We have to get them out of here, Aramis shouted so he could hear himself over the groaning of stone. He knew he could have whispered with Rilla's sensitive hearing. As the ancient wall collapsed around them, they raced back down the hall with the book in tow. Beams of light pierced through the dark corridor. Sand and silt mingled with the falling archaic stones. As they drew near, they saw Lady Ruth standing tall. Telazard was pinned to the floor with gleam wood through his chest. Jewel covered her back with razor-sharp winds, slicing through any ghouls that come near. The necromancer spotted the oncoming duo. He reached out with his gnarled, diseased finger, and the floor cracked before him, splitting toward them with incredible speed. Aramis thought his eyes were playing tricks. It seemed shadows flew for the unmade seam. Rilla stepped in front of Aramis, forcing him to halt in his tracks. She mouthed another prayer against her 2 fingers before she stretched her arms wide. The crack bifurcated and encompassed them, creating a rough-hewn circle. The island of stone shifted as the next blast sounded, causing them to fall to their knees. The vile tome slipped from his arms, opening to a series of arcane texts written in blood. Its pages glowed with an eerie light. "Keep the book away from him! He's trying to teleport out of here!" Jewel cried out. "Then let us go and be done with it," Aramis shouted. Then his heart sank. A ghoul launched at the minx's backside, bringing him down hard to the ground. His arms jerked up and down as more joined the feast. "Jewel!" Aramis cried, scrabbling to stand. Another bang sounded over their heads. Without a second thought, Aramis grabbed her by the waist and held her back. Boulders crashed before them, blocking their path. "Ruth!" Aramis cried out to their captain. "Get out of there!" "No!" came her thick northern accent. "They call upon me, my mother's, my sister. They bid me to take my place. I shall go to Valhalla, free." A distinct snap within the earth sounded. The structure groaned in protest, vibrating through the bones as the floor rolled in waves. It was too late to leave. In a futile effort, Aramis swept Rilla underneath him to shield her from the destruction he had wrought. Stones bounced off of his spine as they embraced. Her words of last rites shuddered in his ear as he rocked her in his arms. "I'm sorry, Vanessa. I won't be coming home this time." Then he saw it through the sandy haze. The glowing tome slid across the floor. Without forethought, Aramis slapped his hand against the chartreuse page. All he could remember next was the smell of sandalwood in Rilla's hair as mist engulfed them home. So, that was the first chapter of the Doppelgänger Queen. Go ahead and check it out if you want to hear more about it. And I hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.
The first chapter has been read, but the story has only just begun. Join us again for more voices, more worlds, more Chapter 1.